and stand to pledge the allegiance. Would you please report after Director Wood the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to
and
the
to the
republic
republic
for which it
for which it
stands,
stands,
one nation,
under God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with liberty
and
and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Wood.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right. The Metro Cable announcement. The open session meeting is videotaped for cablecast on Metro Cable 14. Replay on Monday, January 16th at 6 p.m. and Wednesday, January 20th at 2 p.m. on Channel 14. Webcast at www.sacmetrocable.tv. The public opportunity to discuss matters of public interest within the district jurisdiction, including items on or not on the agenda. Are there any speakers, Madam Clerk?
Yes, we have two speakers, at least that I am aware of. The first speaker I will call on tonight is Mr. David Warren. He was going to be calling in this evening.
Hey, Melissa, this is John Lavra. Can we make a record that we have a quorum before we begin?
Oh, yes, yes, yes. I'll go ahead and call roll first.
All right.
We have Director Kelly as president this evening and Director Sailors. I see you, Director Sailors, but I also see you're still muted.
You might have to do it.
Yeah,
There you go.
thank you. Thank you. I can't, for some reason I couldn't unmute myself, but I'm here. Thank you.
Okay, great, thank you. And Director Clark?
Here.
Director Gould?
Present.
Director Orzali?
Here.
Director Wood?
Here.
Director Sheets?
Present.
Director Jones?
Here.
Director White?
Here.
All right, thank you, John. That does account for all directors. We have a quorum this evening. And Mr. Warren, have you joined us by phone for your comment?
Hey, Melissa, this is Arthur. So I did not see any of the numbers that you mentioned would be Mr. Warren's. So I do have a call-in user that's not identified. I'm going to allow them to talk to see if any of them are Warren.
Okay.
Still muted.
Mr. Warren, we can't hear you yet.
Can you hear me now? This is David Warren.
Yes, there you are.
I finally got the instruction on how to unmute over the line. My name is David Warren, and the reason you've hopefully seen the letter which I submitted in anticipation of this brief phone call. Subsequent to my letter, I was able to obtain the January 4th memo from the Los Angeles County Emergency Medical Services Agency concerning EMS transport for patients in traumatic and non-traumatic cardiac arrest, which directed EMS to not transport if the individual could not be resuscitated pursuant to the standard protocols. The Los Angeles Times, excuse me, Los Angeles Times picked up that email and ran a story suggesting that EMS would triage in the field and determine who should be and who should not be transported for emergency medical care beyond the scope of cardiac arrest. That was subsequently picked up and broadcast by TV News in Los Angeles, and then it was followed by a similar broadcast here in the Sacramento area on Channel 3 and one other television station. Being one of those seniors that always worries about not being transported, I contacted the Metro Fire, and I had the opportunity to speak with Chief Harms, who informed me of the fact that the broadcasts and comments were in reference to the particular limitation of cardiac arrest. It's unfortunate that other people who I've spoken to are now of the belief, based upon misinformation, that in certain circumstances, i.e. the EDs are overwhelmed and that they will not be transported based on the EMS determining they cannot be resuscitated or they're too far gone to be transported to the hospital. What I would like to request from Metro Fire is two things. One, that they contact the public media here in Sacramento County and clarify any misunderstanding. Second, that a brief comment be placed on the webpage very prominently when you log on to make it clear it is not the policy of Metro Fire to not transport a person based upon EMS deciding they may not survive, except as to cardiac protocol. I think it's in the best interest. The reason I suggest this is I received an anecdotal email suggesting that in one instance in Los Angeles County, a person was not going to be transported and one of the family members produced a weapon to compel transportation. I do not want any of our county employees facing that. So I believe my request is simple. We have public information officers available at Metro Fire, and a short statement in the header of the webpage, at least for a brief period of time, confirming that this is false information, I think would be of the benefit for the public. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Warren. We will take that under advisement and bring it up at a later date. Thank you. All right then, moving on to consent agenda or consent items.
President Kelly, we did have one other speaker this evening. We had Joe Pick with the Firefighter Burn Institute joining us.
I apologize. Mr. Pick, please come forward and join our merry band.
Thank you. Thank you to the board for having me. My name is Joe Pick. I'm the Executive Director of the Firefighters Burn Institute and a retired fire captain from Metro Fire. I'm here today to first off thank the board and Metro Fire for their support of our organization. Our boot drive in Citrus Heights is our largest fundraiser. In 2020, we took a big hit in many of our fundraisers, but the fact that we had the fundraiser before the COVID situation hit really helped us out financially. We have made the decision to move forward with the boot drive again this year, adapting to and following all protocols that are given to us by CDC, state and county, as well as Citrus Heights. I've been working with Chief Harms in regards to this. And again, I can't let you know how much I appreciate your guys' support of it. I have an item that has been sitting in my office for quite some time. You see it has that beautiful date of 2020 that some of us might want to forget. But this is something that I've been meaning to get to Chief Harms. In addition to, I'm not sure if you can see it back there, this is our official trophy for the Chiefs Challenge. And I was going to deliver it to him personally, but I decided I wanted to deliver it to the board. As you can see, Chief Harms has his name in the last 3 spots, and I will be happy to give it to him when he gets his spot in 2021. With that in mind, our Chief Challenge a few years back, our chiefs decided that they were going to get creative, as most firefighters do, and figure out a workaround to just get money out on the street and calling in all their big dollar friends that they have and create a fund ahead of time. So I'm wishing Chief Harms and my organization that I retired from to be the victor again by raising a large amount of money. Again, to get back to the roots, Firefighters Burn Institute is a firefighter charity. It started in Sacramento. It is a Sacramento area firefighter charity. And the support that we get from our organizations in our area is immeasurable. So I'm here to thank you guys and let you know you got a trophy that as long as Chief knocks it out of the park again, it's his to put on his desk. So that's all I have for you guys. Thank you. I live in your district. I live in Metro Fire. I live in Carmichael. So thanks for keeping us safe and doing what you do.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, Joe.
Mr. Pick, thank you very much. And thank you for the support that you've shown to many of the different charities that Metro Fire has participated in. And I thank you again for treating me so well at the Pig Bowl for a couple of years there. Or the Guns and Hoses Bowl, excuse me.
Apparently they are still planning to have it in July or June or July. So Jim Barnes is very committed to making it 50 years in a row. And I believe this would be 49. So we'll be present there as well.
All right. Well, thank you again. Any other speakers, Madam Chair?
Oh.
Or excuse me,
Yeah,
Madam Chair.
I didn't have any other speakers contact me beforehand, but Art, if you could unmute everyone for just a moment and make sure there isn't anyone else joining us.
Yeah, doing that now.
President Kelly, this is Director White. I didn't know if you wanted to take a moment at the beginning or at the closing of tonight's meeting for a moment of silence for our neighboring fire chiefs who passed away last month. And we also lost another prominent member, original member of Metro CERT team. So, perhaps before we close, we could take a moment of silence then.
We absolutely, I believe the chief will discuss that exact item under his report, and then we will conclude our meeting with a moment of silence and include both of those gentlemen in the effort. Thank you, Director White.
Okay, attendees, you have the ability to unmute if there is something you would like to say at this time. Looks like no response.
Seeing nothing? Okay, then. We will move on to our consent items.
Mr. Chair, I'd move this consent calendar.
Second.
Okay. There's a motion and a second. Are there any questions on the consent calendar? Seeing none, Board Clerk, will you please take the roll?
Yes, Director Sailors.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
Gould.
Aye.
Orzali.
Aye.
Wood.
Aye.
Sheets.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
White.
Aye.
And Kelly.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. That will move us to our action items. Item number 1, bid award for rigid hull inflatable boats. And Ms. Castleberry?
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for tonight. Last year on March 12th, the board approved a fiscal year 2019 State Homeland Security Grant award in the amount of $186,000 and $23, $186,023. Part of that was for a flood response program. Phase 2, we had done phase 1 in the previous fiscal year. And then another portion of that, a $113,663 portion, was to replace some obsolete equipment in our regional boat program. These are, if you remember, in the past, we had a SHISHGAP 2013 and also SHISHGAP 2014 grant that replaced our, that were for some swift water rescue boats. And so there was one boat that still needed to be replaced, and we have finally received funding for that. In order to make sure that the specifications for the boat are made, custom made to match the existing boats, we did not put this bid out for competitive bidding. We went directly to the previous vendor who custom built the last boats for us. That would be Rogue Jet Boat Works. As you know, this is a regional program. Our team has done all sorts of training on these boats, as well as regional training with our regional partners. So it was really important for interoperability and consistency to make sure that we have the same exact specifications on this boat, which is why we went directly to this vendor. So with that, the final cost of the boat is $113,663. This will be covered entirely by the grant. And what we are requesting from the board tonight is that the board approve the request for exception to competitive bidding and approve the bid award to Rogue Jet Boat Works. I can take any questions if you have any.
Are there any questions for Ms. Castleberry from board members?
Mr. President, sorry.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't have a question. I just like to commend Erin Castleberry on all this work for this grant funding and keeping it moving, especially when it comes to regional work for water safety, water rescue. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Director Jones.
Any other questions or comments by directors? I would entertain a motion. Yes, Mr. Orzali.
One question for Erin. Going to, by what process are we allowed to go outside of competitive bid? I mean, I realize that there's a structure to allow us to do this.
Yes, so we have, in our process, there is a request for exception to competitive bidding. It's a form that one has to fill out when the situation comes up. And there are very particular circumstances. Let me pull up here. What they are, they're indicated on the form. I believe the form was included in your board packet. The applicable categories is that the requested project is an integral repair part or accessory that's compatible with existing equipment.
Mm-hmm.
The next one would be that the requested product has unique design or performance specifications that are not available in any other comparable product.
Right.
The next one would be that the requested product has been standardized by the district, which would be the case here. And the use of another brand or model would require considerable time and funding to evaluate. So that was one of the items that we indicated for this particular request. The next one would be that the requested product is one in which staff has specialized training or extensive expertise, and that retraining on a new product would incur substantial cost and or time or funding. That was something that we also indicated for this particular request. As I mentioned, our regional boat teams have trained extensively on the existing specification. The remaining qualifying categories are that the requested product is used or demonstration equipment is available at a lower than new cost, that repair or maintenance service is only available from a particular manufacturer, that an upgrade to or enhancement of existing software is only available from a particular manufacturer, or that generally speaking, the service proposed by the vendor is unique and therefore competitive bids are not available. So those are the different categories. And basically the process is that whoever is requesting the exception fills out the form, indicates which category the request meets, and then completes the form with a detailed explanation on why it meets that qualification and why it should be considered as an exception.
Thank you, and I just wanted to have that recorded in the public record if there is precedent and protocol for doing this.
Yes, this is part of our purchasing policy. There is a provision for exceptions to competitive bidding in our purchasing policy.
Great.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion we adopt staff's recommendation.
I second.
Who was the second?
Jen Sheets.
Okay. All right, we have a motion and a second. A few questions have been asked. Are everybody happy with the information that's been given? All right then, Board Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Yes, Director Sailors.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
Gould.
Aye.
Orzali.
Aye.
Wood.
Aye.
Sheets.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
White.
Aye.
And Kelly.
Aye.
Motion passes.
All right, moving on to item 2. And before we begin item 2, Director Gould, you have informed me that you wish to recuse yourself.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'll be recusing myself from this particular conversation due to a conflict of interest in the conversation. I will rejoin the meeting when the board clerk advises me of such.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right then, item number 2, Deputy Chief Casentini.
All right, good evening, Board of Directors, Board President, and Fire Chief Harms. Really quickly, I'd like to pass it over to Chief Harms for some opening remarks, and then I will continue. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Casentini. Tonight, we're going to present an MOU that was done between us and an agreement between Local 522 for funding for our firefighters to attend a paramedic program. It is different than what we have done before. Chief Casentini will go through and talk about some of the challenges that we have had over the past few years as far as recruitments and bringing folks into the agency. Two sides of this. One is that in the early 2000s, and there's been a couple classes of similar programs that Metro has done over the years. Me personally, in my previous career in Phoenix, this was something that a program that we had done there, and we had done it for about 30 years. And what we saw was just a lot of success with the individual paramedics that came out of the program. If you look at our members nowadays, they'll come in, they'll be successful in the fire academy. It gives them an opportunity to be an EMT and work on their skills as being an EMT. And that builds upon now the education portion as they move forward. So I'll turn it over to Chief Casentini to kind of give you the lowdown and kind of the background on this program as we move forward.
All right, Chief, thank you. So tonight before you is an agreement between Local 522 and the district that both sides have collaborated on for months together to bring this forward. I'd like to take a few minutes to bring a little bit of background on this issue. So several years ago, our district, like many fire agencies throughout the state, have felt the effects of a significant drop in the pool of qualified paramedics that were applying for firefighter jobs. Now, the reasons can be contributed to many factors, but there's two important things that we've had to deal with. Every paramedic in this state is in the same hiring pool. And when we did have some very good qualified number of paramedics, oftentimes they would withdraw during our process to go to another agency. That's how competitive it is. So several years ago, you might remember that the board passed a resolution to reimburse EMTs that went to the American River College paramedic program. To date, we've only had one submit for reimbursement. We've noticed that the challenge of attending a paramedic school while working shift work appears to be the biggest barrier. So to address this challenge, we've looked outside of the paramedic-only requirement of hiring. And in 2019, in consultation with 522, we hired our first batch of EMTs. So back then, the district attracted over 1,000 applicants for written test in which the majority were EMTs, along with about 100 paramedics. So in Academy Class 19-2, we hired 10 EMTs and 16 paramedics. So in an effort to support our firefighter EMTs and maintain our ALS level of service delivery, we present a great opportunity with this paramedic training program through the American River College. We have 3 firefighter EMTs that have applied for this training, and pending your approval tonight of this agreement, they should start their paramedic training next week. The American River paramedic program will be using a classroom model called the flipped classroom. This is a new approach in which direct instruction moves from group learning to individual learning, and the group learning is transformed into a dynamic, interactive learning environment where the educator guides the students and they apply concepts and engage creatively in those concepts. This program will also include about 40 weeks of instruction, including online, lab, and clinical training. During the 40 weeks, the 3 EMTs will also work 1 12-hour ambulance shift for the district where they will continue their learning. Following the 40 weeks, they will move on to their paramedic internship in the field. This agreement outlines the district will pay for the cost of the program for the calendar year. The cost of the program was relatively low at about $3,700, but the cost of the backfill the employees who are participating will be approximately $440,000. There will be some significant offset when they start working their 12-hour ambulance shifts when they work that. So tonight, staff recommends that the board approve the paramedic training program agreement between the district and Local 522, and I'm happy to take any questions you might have. Thank you.
Mr. President, this is Cindy Sailors, Director Sailors. I have some questions.
Ms. Sailors, please.
Deputy Chief Castantini. What are some of the obstacles when you try to hire paramedics? What are you finding when you try to hire paramedics?
Yeah, good question. So what we're finding is a lot of the paramedics out there have absolutely no field experience. They literally go from the EMT training right to the paramedic training. So they're very, very inexperienced. On top of that, they're very, very young. They don't also have much life experience. On top of that, when they're very young and don't have much life experience, their background investigations become a little challenging. They haven't had enough years between some significant events and their maturity. So those are our challenges. We used to have hundreds and hundreds of paramedics applying when the pool was a lot larger, but also the agencies weren't hiring as many as there are now. So that's really it. The inexperience that we see, that they're so young coming in. And we saw a big increase on the maturity, the test scores, and the professionalism with the EMTs that we did test. So our goal here was always to hire the best person rather than maybe the best paramedic. And so these EMTs have really stood out, and I think they're ready for the training. I think we can support them through the process.
Director Sailors, I'd also like to comment is that there's a little bit of unknown that's going to happen too. While we were working on putting this program together because of the challenges that we've had, a number of paramedic programs have either stopped, they've delayed, they're having challenges getting their members through the clinical portions of the program. Unfortunately, I think there's going to be a large amount of hiring for everybody that didn't hire over the last year or 18 months. Again, and the pool of paramedics is going to become less and less that is out there.
So why the rush to do it now? Why the rush to get these EMTs who are just off of probation into paramedic school right now?
So I think what we have is just a great opportunity, and that opportunity has been driven by COVID. I think in the beginning we had probably about 7 to 9 folks that were interested, Because of the prerequisites that needed to be in place, we ended up with 3 people. It's a pilot program. If you look at the agreement, it's a 1-year agreement with Local 522. And it really puts us in a position to be able to, and if you look at the training program, as long as it takes, it's really trying to be as proactive as we can to maintain service delivery and look at a program for success. I feel that at the end of this, we're going to be able to evaluate the program and say what were the strengths and the weaknesses. And as we move forward, I do not see the hiring challenges that we're having. I do not see them going away in the next future here at all.
So my next question is, what are the requirements for this training program? Because they are not listed in the side letter. And so my concern is with the side letter, one of my concerns is the membership out there, when they read this side letter, how are they going to know what the qualifications and the requirements to sign up for this program, what are they? Because they're not listed in the side letter.
Yeah, Chief, I can take that. Thank you, Director. So the requirements for the program were listed in separate emails to the membership. And they are as following. You have to be a EMT in good standing with the district, also an EMT that is off probation, and an EMT that also qualifies for the prerequisites for this program. You also have
Why is it not in the side letter?
You know, honestly, we had our attorney and the attorney from Mastagni draft this, and they just did not feel it was really important to put in the side letter because the side letter really addresses contract language that both sides agree to. And it's possible that the requirements might change if this is extended, you know, past this first year. So that's why it was just not put in. It wasn't recommended by the attorneys.
I have a follow-up question for that. And this general idea is good to continue to educate our people and offer them opportunities. But back to this, with the rollout, and anyone can, I don't care who answers this, but this question of the rollout and how was our membership notified that this opportunity was going to be presented?
Yeah, so our EMS division contacted every firefighter EMT, and we also sent out several emails looking for interest in this program. So there was a direct contact, and everybody had plenty of opportunity to sign up. There was also a 2-hour evening orientation. I think we had 6 or 7 people attend that as well, so they could ask their questions and learn about some of the requirements. So we really feel that the information got out to anybody that was interested in this program.
Okay, no, that's good. That's good, Chief. Thanks. Oh, well, Director Sal, I don't know if you have, I have a few more questions too. So anyone else has more, or I'll continue.
Director Sheets, so whenever you guys are finished, I also have a couple of questions and comments.
And this is Randy Erzali, and when Director Sheets is done, I have a couple of questions.
Oh, okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and go on for a couple things. My big overall policy concern on this is the return on our investment. We're putting a lot of money into this, not into the pockets of the young firefighters that are doing this, but in terms of using our budget resources. And so on the one level, I have a concern about our investment in this and what is the commitment and investment of the participants when they are chosen. For example, how long will they be required to work as paramedics? How long will they be required to stay at Metro Fire? And I know those issues can be very broad and concerning with big, broad labor issues, but this is part of the equation of return on our investment. And I'd like to have a little more security that after putting out almost $500,000, we are guaranteed sustained paramedic service.
Greg, I'll take that one. There is no way that we can bind them to a contract on how long that they would stay with us as an agency. We can look back at when we have done this in the past, and out of, I think there's 20 some folks that had gone through similar programs, 19 of them are still with us, and they are members of the, they've all promoted along the way. I would say as a fire service, we have, and at Metro, we really don't have retention problems. If anything, our single roles are the ones that want to be firefighters, and we see that group go to other places for other opportunities. The other one is, as far as how long can they be a paramedic, as being hired into the agency, and I don't want to quote it because I know there's some things that we do, we could not do another side letter that says they have to be a paramedic for X amount of time. There's incentives for them to be able to be in the position. We do not see as an agency that we lose paramedics of people going to be EMTs. So a little bit is that we are not able to contract people into these positions, but we can tell you that as we went through it, as Greg said, we gave expectations, we had question and answer times. We feel very strongly by the investment of putting them on 40 hours to make sure that they are successful in it. And in the long term, what we have seen is that we do not have a problem with retention. And if anything, the investment that we're doing into our people will pay back for our service delivery, probably for this youngest group, for 25 or 30 years down the road, we will see them as paramedics with us.
Okay, and then a quick aside, and apologies for not asking this earlier of staff, but right now when someone's hired as an EMT and when they're hired as a paramedic, are they required to maintain those certifications?
So they are not required to maintain their paramedic certification. Everybody is required to retain their EMT certification once they have that.
Okay, all right. What are our neighboring departments and districts, how are they addressing this paramedic shortage? I mean, we've heard of this so often, and it seems like the issue really goes back to recruitment issues. And I realize tonight is not the time to get into all the weeds on recruitment strategies, perhaps how to change a few things up so we get more folks. But we got what, Consumnes, City of Sac, City of Folsom, Roseville, and forgive me if I'm forgetting one, but we have a lot of departments in our region. How are they addressing this issue?
It is one of the topics that we talk about at what I would say county chiefs or at the Western Placer County chiefs. And it is the exact same struggle that each agency has for being able to fill those positions. Some departments, because maybe someone picked to go to a smaller agency, they won't test with maybe us in the city. Other folks like the opportunities that are over here, and so you'll get some people that will test with the city or with Metro, but not the smaller agencies. The uniqueness with Roseville is that they do not have ambulances, and so some folks will test there because they don't want to spend any time on an ambulance. So you have different drivers by different individuals. One of our communities here, just in our region right here, just went through a testing process and an interview process. And talking to that chief who sat on all the interviews said almost exactly what Greg had said, was that the individuals that had came through as EMTs showed just a better level of maturity, more experience, more life experience, but they're struggling in between EMT and paramedics and hiring. I know that both Consumnes and the city, definitely we have conversations and with Local 522 about this paramedic program and the opportunity, and everybody is looking at what is that option that is going to be out there. One of the things that with ambulances, and I know between the city fire and with us, is that you look at your balance of staffing of EMT and paramedics, is that the paramedics know they will have to be moved off their companies at a certain point in time, and that they'll have to be moved over to the ambulance. And years ago, when there was not enough paramedics, that happened here, where people would be moved out of their regular assignment and then moved over to an ambulance. And our goal is not to have that happen, is to have that balance in staffing, that balance is across there. But right now, Greg is the chair of the regional diversity group. He is the chair of that, along with Melissa Maddox is on that. We work very closely with CPF and some of the other programs that are there to look at that pool of folks that we have out there and try to reach out to as many as we can and being able to bring them in and put them into the program here. But it is a conversation that all of the fire chiefs are looking at, and looking at those things as far as the pools that we have, each of us are competing for.
I'll just have one more question, and then I'd like to hear other folks' questions and comments. Again, it's this idea of risk on our investment or return on our investment. What happens if someone drops out after 6 months?
They continue this to be an EMT for us.
And the expenditures that the district has done? I mean, this could be 1 month or it could be 11 months, you know.
That's part of the risk of the program, and trying to make sure that we pick the right people, that they do the prerequisites, and that they know what they're getting into as they move forward. And it is one of the risks of the program, of not only, you know, the failure portion of it, but they have some type of life event happen to them, and that they're not able to continue on with the program. And we'll work our way through that. You know, our goal is that we will have a mentor that will be assigned to them. We will do what we would normally do to make people successful, and work with them during those periods of time. But if somebody fails, the people that are going in there are all good firefighters, they're all good EMTs. We will not terminate them or lose them as a good employee because of, unfortunately, they did not able to complete the paramedic program.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll hold for now.
Thank you. Director Sheets, you had questions.
Yeah, I thank you for your time. I really would like to echo Chief Harm's sentiments. I think that this program will pay in dividends. I think that if you look at our previous positions where we have invested in EMTs or even paramedics, and they have promoted within the department, I think that the return on investment, yes, while there is an upfront cost, people are not only taking ownership, but are proud to work for this department, because not only did they go through a paramedic program and complete their training, they're proud to work for this organization. And I think that, you know, when we talk about our number one service, service delivery is, or our number one priority is service delivery, we want the best paramedics that are out there. And what a great opportunity it is to support the people that are working for the department and are now promoted to being a paramedic. I think that people take ownership. They are proud to work for the organization that have helped them get to their goal of being a paramedic. I think that if you look at how many people have gone through a paramedic program within Metro Fire and now have promoted, I think that it is a great opportunity. You know, my background is healthcare, and I think that when we invest in our employees and we put the time and the effort into making them successful and being a contributing part of our organization, I think that basically our organization stays the best. And I absolutely wholeheartedly put every heart into this program. So thank you for your time, and that's all I have.
Thank you, Director Sheets. Director Orzali.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have only two things. I like the model. I think if you look at how can you best get the folks that we want, this model, taking people that are already known entities and supporting them in being trained, has a very high probability of being successful. It also comes with a significant cost. And my concern is that at the end of this, and I've expressed this to the chief as well as to 522, my concern is that we have a real evaluation at the end of this pilot program to talk about what we spend, what we get. And to also look at how could we get the result we're looking for less money. This is not a small amount of money, and there might be things that we could do that would get us the same result for a lower cost. Beyond that, I'm on board.
Thank you, Director Orzali.
If I can just, I respectfully disagree. If you want the best people working for our organizations, there's a cost. All right. So there's an upfront cost. And I truly believe that investing in our members and promoting within is going to pay in dividends.
Well, and perhaps I didn't express myself correctly. I have no doubt that will get us the best product we can. But it's an additional minimum $100,000 an employee. And if that fits in the budget, then fine. But there's no harm in our looking at other ways to get the same result for less cost. Maybe they don't exist, I don't know. But I think we owe it to the community to explore it.
Thank you for your comments. Any other? Yes,
Mr.
Director
President.
Jones.
This is Director Sailors, if I may.
Oh.
I'll wait. It's okay.
There are other ways to invest in our people and to bring people on board. There are internship programs. I'm just going to ask staff, have you guys ever investigated an internship program?
I had a discussion with the California State Department that runs internships, and I tried to put together kind of an exploratory program about 14 months ago with the state, and to be honest, they weren't interested. They had never tried it in the state of California. I met with them twice, and to be honest, they never called me back. They looked for a lot of state grants, federal funding, and they said that the EMT to paramedic advancement has not been done, and they don't have any support to move forward on it. So yeah, I did meet with them over a year ago, and that's really all that we found on that side so far. So we did try.
You have never talked to any regional departments that had an internship program or talked to them?
I have not run into any departments that were able to take an EMT and get them through a program or any type of funding through the paramedic training because of the initial cost. No.
You might reach out to some other departments regionally, and they actually brought interns in and trained them through. They were not firefighters. They hired them as interns and put them through the paramedic program. Mm-hmm. And once they were through the paramedic program, they hired them as firefighter paramedics. It has been done in this region. They did it for more than 10 years, between 1995 and the year 2005.
Yes.
Okay.
Something certainly we can look at.
And it
All
didn't
right.
$440,000 up front just for 3 people. So there are programs out there that hire people and bring them through the paramedic program and then hire them as firefighters. So this $440,000 up front to pay them to be off of work so they can go to school, I have a serious problem with. So that they can get a paramedic license so that we can then pay them an incentive. I feel that this is double dipping. I don't think the taxpayers are going to appreciate that. And I understand wanting to invest in our members. I truly do, and I understand that. But this amount of money, there are so many other ways that we can spend it in a much better way for the district. Please reconsider other ways. There are internship programs. There are, Sac State has a paramedic program. Right now it's stalled because of COVID. There is more than just one way to accomplish this. Please reach out.
Will do.
Thank you, Director. And Director Jones, you have your hand up.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. President. I see validity in most of the points that my fellow directors are making. And this is a tough one. For example, this concern about recruitment and not being able to get folks. Then other programs that have been tried both at Metro and other entities. And I would really like to have, not tonight, I don't expect it tonight, but to have an in-depth report about the successes and failures of these programs. And that would include the budget for them, whether it's an internship or the single roles, this idea of what produces good employees, good paramedics for Metro Fire. That's a big concern too. And I agree very much with Director Rosali's comments about a very large upfront cost. And if and when we approve this, we need to be extremely diligent on figuring out what our return on investment is or will be. So as a quick aside, for example, what is our recruitment budget?
Our recruitment budget is $50,000 a year.
Wow. There you go.
Yeah. So it was 25,000, and 2 years ago we doubled it to 50,000. And I will tell you, you know, speaking with our top recruiter, he's a firefighter. COVID has absolutely destroyed our ability to recruit this year. We have reached out to every paramedic school in California. So many events have been canceled this year. They're talking about career expos, our coordination with FCTC, a lot of it's online. Next Thursday, Metro is participating in an online webinar that's going to have up to 1,000 candidates on it, so they can ask us direct questions and we can, you know, promote the district. So we've had to be creative this year. We're hoping that 21 is going to open up the venue so we can get about a dozen of our recruiters out to all these important events.
Okay. Well, geez, Chief, you know, we got 450,000 versus 50,000, and that's just a recent increase. I don't like that disparity. What can we do about that?
Can I ask a question? So,
Please
Sure.
go ahead, Director Sheets.
my question is how much are we paying in overtime to backfill? So if we're talking about like the upfront cost, which I completely understand is high, but we're backfilling.
Correct.
Yeah, right.
That's the money that is on there is the complete cost of everything, backfilling every single shift that they are out there. It does not take in cost in the 12 hours per week that we will get per individual to back into that. As far as the recruitment side of it, I don't have the numbers of exactly what we spent on overtime. But the things that we see is with having an individual as the lead, and then what happens is that we will send a company, and a lot of times it's that on-duty company, and there's no cost to the district, that goes and is involved with different programs for us. We have a number of individuals that really on their own mentor people through the firehouse, whether it be somebody that is going through a paramedic program and they're doing their internship with us. And what we found is that a lot of times it's having that individual that looks, acts, and seems very same as the people we are trying to recruit. So we do have the opportunity that we take recruitment and spread it across a number of areas. The actual recruitment, I think what Greg is talking about there, has overtime costs that are in there. It has some things that we do as far as buying material. And then there are sometimes, at least in the past, there was some times where you would pay to be at a site to be able to do things. But some of the best recruitment that we have done has been with our coach and with the recruits, and then having the college athletes come to the training academy and spend a day down there with the recruits, and being able to look at the physical side of the job and being able to recruit people through there. That really doesn't have a dollar cost for the people that are there. It's more of a time investment portion of it than it is anything else.
Thank you, sir.
A quick review question, Mr. Chair. Does this go for 9 months of a school year? How long is this?
Yeah, Director.
Forgive me, I don't have it in front of me.
No, so it's about 40 weeks of education, and then that'll take them into probably the fall. Then they'll do their paramedic internship. So we're looking at the entire calendar year of 2021.
Okay, and their internships, will they be the third person on the medic then?
That is correct.
Okay. Will they be pulling a 12-hour shift as an EMT on an ambulance with 2 folks?
That is correct. For the first 40 weeks they will, and then probably not during their internship.
But will that be a 56-hour on the internship?
Yeah, that's correct, 56 hours.
Okay. All right. Well, Mr. Chair, right now my final comment is it's difficult for me to support this, but I can as a pilot project, but with a very strong caveat, and there's no way to enforce this, but the very strong caveat of taking a hard look at this at the end, and also a very hard deep dive into our recruitment. Because I'm sorry, this 50,000 versus 450 is still, that shows there's a need to take a look, for all of us, to take a look at our recruitment program. And this could fill a gap. And like Director Sheets says, over 20 years in terms of not having the extra paramedics, it's such a long term, it's kind of hard to think about. But my point is I can support this with all these other things getting into motion, because I think that's part of our job as directors, is to look at alternatives. So that way I can support the comment from Director Azali as well as Director Sheets. And the concern that Director Saylor's raised about the expenditure, that's a very difficult one. It's a very difficult question.
If I can just say something that, unfortunately, when it comes to recruitment, especially in healthcare, you pay for what you get. I think that our members, because we are a very established and well-respected organization, we get the best. And I wholeheartedly believe that we absolutely hire the best. And if this is an upfront cost that we need to do to ensure that our constituents, our public is taken care of with our members, not our gosh, I'm sorry, I'm at a loss of words right now because I'm very passionate about this. But I think that if we invest in our members like we have done in the past, and we upfront, and yes, it is a lot of money, and I completely see that. But if we invest in our members and their them promoting within, I truly believe, just like in healthcare, that people are more loyal. They have ownership. They really believe in the department, that they're more likely to stay. And I truly, truly believe that this is going to be good for our department. And I truly believe that this is good for our constituents. And because we all live in the district, I truly believe it's good for the district. And
thank you.
I will yield my time.
Thank you, Director Sheets. 522 Rep. Mr. Mike McGoldrick would like to have a word also.
I just wanted to acknowledge the expense of the program. I understand the concern, and I also realize that there is no guarantees. I will tell you, I've been with this organization for 30 years. I've been an academy instructor. We have been an enormous amount of money into folks that are unknown entities here. These three are known. We know they can perform the job. I'm confident they'll succeed. When we end up carrying a person through the academy, put them on probation, and they have insufficient skills, we do end up eventually releasing them, and that comes at a significant cost also. So I just wanted to throw that out there. These guys are motivated and ready to do it, and I do understand the concern. And the last thing is, just for being on the record, we have had multi versions of an internship program here at Metro Fire. Predecessor agencies before Metro Fire was formed have always been motivated to put their people through paramedic school. And this is just another attempt of trying to find something in a timely manner in order to make it happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McGoldrick. Are there any other comments?
Yeah. Director Kelly?
Yes.
Oh, Director Kelly.
Director Wood?
Oh, I'm sorry. I just want to add, I would echo the comments from Director Sheets. She said it better than I could. But I think we do have a policy, if not something formal, at least informal, that we are hiring and seeking to hire paramedic firefighters, and have a desire at least to have all our frontline personnel be paramedic firefighters. So I think it's worthwhile to take some action that puts the money, even though it is a lot of money, where our mouth is and where our goals are, and work towards helping our members get to that position. In the future, this also builds some goodwill, so that in the future, should we on reflection find some other ways to do this, it gives us a chance to have that buy-in from the membership for alternative methods down the road. So I think it's a good idea. I laud the efforts of the district and 522 to put something together and bring it to us. So thank you.
Thank you. Director White?
Yeah, just one, I appreciate the fact that this is a collaborative labor management agreement. I know management is a hiring right, but you always want to discuss the impacts with labor. A paramedic shortage isn't really new. My first paper for the National Fire Academy's Executive Fire Officer program was on a paramedic shortage in Sacramento But the pandemic and recent events have definitely exacerbated that even to a new level. When you're hiring, like President McGoldrick said, when you've got a known quantity, you want to you'll take attitude over aptitude because you can train them. And, even when I served as fire chief in the city of Sacramento, I wound up hiring EMTs, many of which after they got hired, went through the paramedic program. American River College has a very good paramedic program. Sac State's program with Jason Hemler is also a good program. It is a significant cost, but at the end, it is a pilot program, and I think we'll continue to evaluate it. In fact, we have had intern programs in the past that I served as the district's first paramedic intern coordinator, but they came at a cost to, and we're talking about an investment which is likely to be, long lasting. When you spread those costs out over, a 10, a 15, a 20-year career of them providing advanced life support services to, to the citizens that we serve, the community. I think the return on investment is there. I think starting small with a pilot program and just a few quality employees, I can completely agree that, there's no guarantees in life, only opportunities, but I think that this is an opportunity for us to maintain or sustain the level of paramedics we need in our system to deliver that level of service. Perhaps the best analogy I heard back when I was researching this more was, you need a certain water level to maintain the level of ALS service you want. And it's as if we have pulled the drain but only turned the faucet on a trickle. We're not getting a volume of paramedic already developed paramedic candidates applying. So you can either choose the few good ones and settle for the other ones, or you can hire the best you can hire and develop them to be at the level you want them. So yeah, I'm supportive of the program.
Thank you, Director White. Director Jones, you have your hand up again.
Okay. I'll be next, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Thank you, Delman. Hey, a quick explication here. I want to make sure this is the pilot program, and that means that this does not create a precedent for any future programs that we might have. Just straight out, I'm concerned, if we do this for these 3 people and it's successful, that's great. What if we have 20 people next year? I mean, obviously we cannot afford that. So I want to make sure, in the legalese of the side letter or whatever, that this does not constitute some sort of precedent, i.e. a minimum floor, because this is just a test. This is a pilot project.
That's correct.
So
yeah,
did I get that clarified legally?
The program is a pilot. The side letter agreement expires at the end of the year.
Does that suffice for the precedent stuff with when we go into all those sort of side letters and contracts and such? I don't know.
That's why we did the side letter and why we did the agreement and why we had our attorneys on both sides, along with some other areas to make sure that there was the program and some of the other factors or questions that came up were taken care of during that time. But all the way through for probably the last 2 years, we have said this is a pilot program that we are moving forward on to evaluate at the end of this and see of how, as Director Orzali said, is a deep dive on how did this work, what things went well, what things can we do in the future then. So no, there's an end date to this.
Mm-hmm. Great. And with that in-depth analysis, let's make sure that we have somewhat of an in-depth analysis about the previous programs that we've had, and let's compare and contrast and see what we have. Thank you.
Director White, you have your hand up once again.
Oh,
Oh, excuse me, Director Clark, you were next.
okay.
I apologize.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I support this program. I think it's a pilot. And after listening to the explanations and all the analysis and all that from the chief and Mr. McGoldrick, I think that we really should invest. We should invest in people that we already have. And I agree with Director Sheets that these people are already, we have confidence that they're going to come through. They're going to come through for us. They're good employees. And one other concern that I have mainly, and meanwhile we're doing this, we're looking at this pilot program under the circumstances. We have COVID. I don't know how long this thing is going to go on. We're going to have recruitment issues for quite a while. But I also want to see that we invest more money in our recruitment and have a better effort at recruitment, because that's just ridiculous that the amount of, the budget is really small. It's minuscule. So I support the program because it's a pilot. I know it's expensive as heck, but that's sometimes what it costs to get the best, as Director Sheets has mentioned. That's all, Mr.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Clark. I would only make the comment that, and I don't mean to speak for Mr. Clark, but we're both familiar with apprenticeship programs, and apprenticeship programs are the best training programs available. You put the investment in your people and they will become better employees, more loyal, and appreciative of the opportunities that you've given them. But this is a good deal of money, and I don't proceed with this lightly. But I do believe that it's a pilot program that is worth looking into, because in this day and age, it's not 1995 to 2005 where that is in our rear view mirror. But it would not hurt to look at the programs that have existed in the general area in the past and see if there's any opportunity to work some of the components of those programs in, and look forward to seeing how things flush out at the end. And those are all the comments that I have for now. I would accept a motion on the item if there's anybody interested.
I will move it, Mr. Chair.
I'll second, Mr. Chair.
We have a motion from Director Clark and a second from Director Wood. Board Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Yes. Director Sailors.
Trying to unmute myself. Oh, there I am. No.
Director Clark.
Aye.
Director Gould has recused himself. Director Orzali.
Aye.
Wood.
Aye.
Sheets.
Enthusiastically, yes.
Jones.
Aye.
White.
Aye.
And Kelly.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, moving on to action, or would you please let Director Gould know he can return?
Yes.
And I will go really slowly so he can have time to join us. The next item, item number 3, is a memorandum of understanding for the endowment. Director Orzali, this is yours.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm really pleased to bring this to us this evening. And before I start, I want to take a moment to express my appreciation to Chief Harms for his support in this. It's an important initiative, I think, for Metro in the future. And I also want to express my appreciation to John Lavra for his support in drafting this MOU agreement. Fundamentally, it is this. Through the Sac Metro Public Safety Foundation, an opportunity came to us to establish an endowment where at some unknown future date, a sizable amount of money will come from the estate of the individual who is establishing the endowment to the foundation, and that money is definitively earmarked for the support of education of children of firefighters who were either killed in the line of duty or so badly injured that they were required to retire. Now, as I say, it is my hope that this doesn't come about for a long time, but at some point it will. And when that does occur, those qualified individuals will be eligible for what I expect might be something in the range of $10,000 to $30,000 a year in this endowment for the education of firefighters' children. So I encourage the board to support this initiative. I also want you to know that it is my intent to take this endowment concept to the next logical step and make this available to retirees, active membership, and the public to include Metro Fire in their will and trust planning for long-term endowment. So with that, I'll take any questions.
Are there any questions on the motion? Any comments?
Excuse me, Mr. President. Yes, Director Rosali, this sounds
Yes.
great. Now, will we need to do further action to expand this conveyance for trust to donate?
As I understand it, and as in all things, I will go back to John Lavra, but I believe that the existing MOU will serve the same purpose for future endowments. And so, as an example, I am making the same arrangement to include Metro Fire in my own trust. And I will use this MOU as the baseline for that. So that's what I think.
Thank you.
Hey, Director Jones, to your point, this MOU as currently drafted is for children of Metro Fire employees who have been killed or injured to the point where they can no longer work. The concept and the wording would have to be expanded if you're going to include additional beneficiaries under this. But the key is that Metro Fire is not the entity that will be responsible for administering the funds or determining who's going to be eligible for the funds and things like that. So if it was to expand, you could use this document as one that would expand it to different categories of beneficiaries. The endowment would stay with the Public Safety Foundation and the third-party organization that they are going to be retaining in order to administer the endowment.
Thank you, John. That's exactly what I was trying to say.
Are there any other questions?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, Director Rosali, is this? I mean, I get a little conflict there because first we said it's only for children of firefighters, and then we're saying also that Metro Fire employees. That could include anybody else outside of the firefighters. So
well,
to be clear on that.
To absolutely to be clear on that, for this gentleman, he has very clearly outlined for what this money is to be used, and that will serve as a guideline for the Public Safety Foundation. In my own case, I'm outlining what I want my money to be used for. Other individuals will have the same opportunity. So.
Thank you for that clarification.
Any other questions of board members?
Mr. Chair, I'd move staff's recommendation.
Director Woods, that was you moving the
second.
And Director Clark seconding me. All right, we've got a motion and a second on the on the floor. Board Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Director Sailors,
Aye.
Clark,
Aye.
Gould,
Aye.
Orzali,
Aye.
Wood,
Aye.
Sheets,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
White,
Aye.
and Kelly.
Aye.
Motion passes.
All right. Action item number 4 is a response to the request of Mr. David Warren. We heard from Mr. Warren earlier this evening, but I believe it's on an unrelated matter. And this evening, Director Orzali, could you please cover Mr. Warren's request for this action item?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. At our previous board meeting, Mr. Warren spoke and sent a letter, and then he again talked this evening about a related but different task. What he originally asked was that our board issue a response to in support of the wearing of PPE and the observation of COVID protocols, because he had seen in his experiences in the hospitals, had seen examples where people were not following those protocols. And his concern, I would mention, is specifically about Metro Fire personnel. So when our personnel encounter someone who's not following those protocols, it places them at risk. And that was his initial concern, whether that was another agency or Metro Fire or the public. And what he asked was that we as a board respond to it. I think it would be completely appropriate for us to produce a letter that says we in Metro Fire support for all people following the protocols of COVID and the wearing of PPE, and posting that on our website.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Orzali, or Director Orzali. Are there any questions from anyone else regarding the item? Seeing none.
It's Director White. I've just, I believe in the past, haven't we, posted a very similar message, maybe near the beginning of the pandemic, or encouraging, the public to wear masks, social distance. Has that been done on our social media prior?
Director White, we have encouraged internally to our own folks, and that we follow the public safety or the public health guidelines, but we have not taken upon ourselves to post that on our social media internally as the fire chief and with our members. We have had protocols that are in place for following the directives from the county.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Mr. Chair, I have a quick question for Randy.
Please, Mr. Gould. Randy,
this is really just a motion to start formulating a letter. Is that correct?
Fundamentally, yes.
Okay.
It's to saying that we're going to approve the idea. We'll formulate a letter. Yes.
All right. So the next step would be once the document is in draft form, it would come back to this body for revision or suggested changes, and then we would once again make a decision as an action item.
I'm fine with that as a protocol.
Okay. I just think it's important as we formulate this letter that we consistently identify experts beyond our bandwidth and align or reference those organizations that are setting those standards. So it doesn't come across as Metro Fire is establishing any kind of established criteria or anything of that nature, that we're just supporting what is good practice in the community.
I agree.
Okay. Thank you.
I would like to echo his sentiments. I think that We are putting in place the guidelines from the CDC and the World Health Organizations and the state of what our responsibilities are as an organization. And I think that, we continue to do what we need to do for our members to protect our constituents. And I'm not sure whether a letter is going to change anything.
It might not, but it has more effect than no letter. At least it has it is a restatement of the obvious, and I realize this would come off like a Mother's Day initiative in the legislature, but it has the potential to be of benefit. It does make a public statement about both COVID and Metro Fire, and I don't see a real downside to it, and I do see a potential upside.
Mr. Chair, with the comments made, I would like to make a motion that we adopt this action item.
There's a motion,
I'll second.
and Director Sailors is seconding the motion. So we have a motion by Director Gould, a second by Director Sailors. Seeing no further questions.
Well,
Matt,
actually,
I think
have
Gay
my
has a
hand up.
question.
Gay, you have a question.
Yeah.
Oh,
No,
I see
actually,
your hand up.
comment. It's good.
Now I
It's
see
all
your hand
good.
up. Okay, thank you.
Let's send the letter reiterating proper protocols, because my goodness, here we are. We're on the side of Uncle Tony. Uncle Tony, Tony Fauci. Let's just do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Director. Board Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Director Sailors,
Aye.
Clark,
Aye.
Gould,
Aye.
Rosali,
Aye.
Wood,
Aye.
Sheets,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
White,
Aye.
and Kelly.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Moving on to reports. President's report. The executive committee met today and we went over committee assignments. If you were on a committee previously, chances are you're on that committee again. I'm sure that the fine points will be distributed in the minutes for the meeting when they are disseminated. Moving on to, or I don't believe there's anything else to report under my report. Moving on to the fire chief's report and the operations report.
Thank you, President, members of the board. I would like to request tonight at the close of the meeting, we have a moment of silence. We've had 2 deaths recently in our region. The first one was a CERT member. His name was Don Olson. Don passed away suddenly on Monday. He had been one of the first CERT members that we've had. He was very, very active in the group and was always one of those people to be able to call on, and was out there and always represented ourselves very, very well. And as Director White said, the loss of Forrest Adams. Forrest was the fire chief in 2007. He began his career in 1977 with the city of Sacramento. He also had a 37-year Coast Guard service to his country. And so at the end of tonight, if we could have a moment of silence, I would appreciate that. As far as the district promotions, we've had 2 promotions that'll be effective on the 17th. Captain Shannon Chamberlain and Captain Joe Schmidt. Congratulations to both of them. On the other end of it, we've had about 70+ years that have left the district. Captain Brian Benton with 26 years, Captain Craig Henderson with 26 years, and facilities manager George Graven. George had been with us as 19 years and had been in charge of the facilities for at least like the last 5 or 6 years. We wish them all well, and we wish them good luck in their next chapter as they move forward. Recruitment opportunity for Academy 20-1. We'll start our internal recruitment for firefighter paramedics That would be with the single role program. For reassignments, we had to advertise for our COVID-19 unit effective on the 18th. Firefighter Christine Rivera and Michael Skaggs were assigned to that unit. That group has done just an outstanding job, and Chief Mitchell is going to talk more about COVID and testing, and as we move forward now into the vaccine side. And it has been an interesting year. These folks have represented us and have just done a great job out there on the testing side. We will continue testing, and as I said, Adam will talk more about vaccines. We did a little bit of reorganization on the support side of the support branch of the organization for Chief Wagaman. He will inherit community risk reduction, fire investigations, and fire dispatch. And then for the administrative side, Chief Castantini is going to take over IT or information technology. When I arrived here, Greg was the fire marshal at that time and had been in that position. And then he had spent another 4 years managing over there. Greg, thank you very much for your time and what you did over there on that side. Tyler's background coming in with the community risk reduction, his last assignment at fire dispatch, and then his long connection with fire investigations and the management of that, and being an arson investigator himself was just kind of a natural fit for those things to come together. So we look forward to just a little bit of the changes that we had. As far as meetings, ourselves at the Sac County Fire Chiefs Association, the executive group, which is the fire chiefs, met at the end of the year. At this point, I am no longer the chair of the group, and Consumnes Fire Chief Felipe Rodriguez will be the chair as we move forward. Upcoming events, as Joe Pick had said, with a number of changes as far as COVID, we will still have Fill the Boot. That is February 4th to the 7th at Sunrise Mall. The Chiefs Challenge will be on Saturday, February 6th from 9 to 10. I'll be calling on each of you to help support, because we want to make sure that trophy comes back to the location right here where it belongs at for a long, long time. I'll send you some more information on that as we move forward. I'm going to turn over the report now to Chief Mitchell to give us our operations report.
Thanks, Chief Harms, and good evening, President Kelly, directors. Start off, last time we met on December 10th. It's been a while. Oh, by the way, Happy New Year. Metro Fires ran 9,848 total calls. It's been a very busy month since the time we talked last with the number of building fires. We had a total of 28 dispatches. Of those, we had 16 that were working fires where the whole alarm assignment was assigned. 11 of them were in our districts, 2 in Consumnes, and 3 we assisted Sac City Fire with. Of note, from those incidents, our incident commanders, when they have some valid learning points to take away from any of the incidents we run, we've developed in the last couple of years the after action report process. So out of those incidents, we developed 9 new after action reports that help us to learn. If you didn't go to the incident, it gives you some opportunity to learn from what occurred, some good takeaways for our members to continue to get better at what we do out there each and every day. No surprise, our busiest engine company was Engine 53, and then our busiest medic company was Medic 224, both over 400 responses over that time frame. I'd like to highlight one of the incidents that occurred in the district on December 26th out in Battalion 5, where we had a house fire that resulted in the victim rescue. The outcome wasn't great for the victim, but in light of that, a positive to take away, the crews found no working smoke detectors in that situation, and I believe a number of the directors were made aware of the smoke detector blitz that we performed on December 30th, 4 days after that incident. Very successful. During the morning on the 30th, we were able to distribute 140 smoke detectors out into the community surrounding the area of the fire incident. We had just about 60 folks receive 9-volt batteries that let us know that they just needed some batteries for their smoke detectors. And then we visited over 250 residences in that time. It was a great group effort. Our CERT folks were involved, community risk reduction inspectors, number of operations folks, Firefighter Burn Institute, the American Red Cross also assisted. So it was a great collaborative effort to take advantage of a sad occurrence to really reinforce the need for working smoke detectors and how we got out in the community to have those discussions. We also had great media coverage due to the work of our PIO with a number of the media outlets attending and providing a bigger opportunity for us to spread that message. So that was a good thing. Real quickly, we have our command manual. This has been a number of years that has been put into writing down what we do at Metro Fire and bringing consistent operations. We are at the final push. I'm happy to report it's back at a publisher, and we're getting the proofs back to us. We will be able to roll this out here as a reference for us down the road on any of our company officer or chief officer testing processes, as well as just to do training out in the field on what we do. We also have done a release video. Not sure that you've seen that last month, to let everybody know it's coming. And some of the talents in our agency are unbelievable with the IT side of the house and video. We have a release video coming up when we do that that really is done well. It's a really professional video to accompany that rollout to really gather some interest in the field for folks to take a look at that and really establish what we do moving forward into the future for years to come, excuse me. Another item on January 1st, fruition of a huge amount of work allowed us to change our records management system over to ImageTrend. It was a big move that took a lot of time, effort, and energy of a number of individuals. I know Chief Law and EMS and a number of other folks were able to get us over to that. Now all of our records managements fall under one program as far as our PCRs, our incident reporting, fire investigations, our community health care. It also allows us to do data mining and data tracking, which will be beneficial long into the future. In addition, we've had, we moved over to another program for our training records and things like that. So that was a big push and a lot of effort that went into that. So thank you to those members involved in that. Chief Harms mentioned the COVID situation. We've had since the beginning, early in 2020, we've had 102 of our members test positive. But our member testing program has been a very, very positive thing for our agency to be able to support. We've done over 1,114 tests of our own members. And so that's a huge undertaking, allowing our folks to be tested quickly. Currently right now, we have 22 people off. 14 of those folks are positive members waiting to get back to work. The other folks off are either awaiting a test result due to contact tracing or waiting release back to work so that they can get back out in the field. I think of note on the COVID front, during the last 2 months since November 1st, we have seen quite a fluctuation in our staffing. At one point, when we were at our highest, we had 93 members that were off duty due to positive or contact tracing. Fortunately, obviously, the number back down at 22, we've been as low as below double digits in the single digits recently. It's a good indicator of where we've been. But as a result of that number of folks being off, I just wanted to give you a quick update on what our staffing has looked like during that time and some snapshots into that. As far as brownouts go, since November 1st, we've had 69 different times where we've had an unfilled position on one of our engines, trucks, or ambulances on 24 different days. So there were some days where we had multiple unfilled positions. The good news from that, though, due to our commitment of our members that are out there, a vast majority of those 69 times resulted in only partial shift closures or brownouts. So just an unbelievable effort by our line folks. It's been a long year, but they sure stepped up to the plate. I'm happy to report out of those 24 days, only 2 of those days we actually closed the company for the full shift. One happened on December 5th. The other one was on January 8th. And so there's an example of the dedication of the members of the district out there to keep providing the service delivery that we all are wanting to do out for the community members. And then for our SRP units, over that same time period, we had 13 days where we had unfilled vacancies. And then 8 of those days, unfortunately, we had to close one of the SRP units. So some significant impacts, but we're looking good right now. And the members have done a great job in weathering the storm, if you will. The vaccination front, there has been a lot of time, effort, and energy putting a plan together to allow our members, as many members as we can, as quickly as possible, getting vaccines. We worked closely with County Health, our LEMSA, our local other fire agencies to get Cal Expo up and running on January 7th to get vaccines started. It's been a very successful process. We're happy to report that a number of folks have gone through that. In addition, we're coming up here on Friday. We're going to open up our own point of distribution, which took a lot of effort, again, with the organizations, our medical director, to get that set up, training division, or our training to expand the scope of practice for our out-on paramedics to administer it. So on Friday, we'll add an opportunity for our folks to get vaccinated, which is great news. Obviously, the quicker we can do that, the quicker we can turn the corner and start talking of something other than COVID, fingers crossed. I don't want to neglect to recognize the fact that most of the planning that went into that was done by our emergency operations team. Chief House, the training folks, health and safety folks, working closely with CRRD and EMS, really put in some effort there, and the high caliber folks that are over there got us stood up in less than a week, which is phenomenal. So meeting all the federal regulations and stuff has really been difficult, but they've done a great job. A couple other items, a positive one, we recently received through the UASI grant process, personal thermal imaging cameras for every riding seat in the district. That is a huge, huge positive for us. That puts a ability for each one of our firefighters, all 128 positions out in the field, puts a thermal imager in their hand. And I think most of us, if not all of us, are familiar with how those work. It allows us to go in and effectively and efficiently provide search capabilities, and having one in every firefighter's hand is a great thing. Throughout the region, I'm happy to report it's a regional grant. So all 4 fire agencies, our partners at Casumas, Folsom, and Sacramento City Fire all received that through the UASI grant. Our training division and health, or training, safety, and truck committee are working on the training plan to get those out in the field right now. And so if you think about it in terms of before, where we might have had 6 thermal imaging cameras on the scene, we're now going to have 28 on a residential structure fire. So that's a really, really good thing. And then last, I will say tomorrow we're going to activate, as a request from our partners at Sacramento Police Department, our Sacramento Regional Incident Management Team to assist in planning and facilitating support for any protests that are planned in the region coming up over the next week. That's a conglomeration of all the fire agencies, our partners at Sacramento Sheriff, CAL FIRE Amador El Dorado Unit, and Sacramento Police Department has recently come on board as an IMT participant. So we'll have 32 of our members going over and helping them out throughout the next week as we go through the potential protest situation. So I know that was a lot. It's been a while since we spoke. I'll be happy to take any questions. If not, that's the end of my report. Thank you.
Thank you for your report, Chief Mitchell. Director Jones, you had your hand up to discuss something that was in Chief Harm's report.
Yes, thank you. First, Chief Mitchell, thanks. That was a great report. Very, very good news on a lot of fronts. Thanks. It's more that it's a sad thing, but I think there are a couple more names that we might need to add on our moment of silence at the end of our meeting. Forgive me if there was an oversight earlier, but we also had City Fire Chief Ray Charles pass away over the holidays. And we recently had Sac City Fire Captain Carl Granger pass away as well. And many folks probably know Carl through a lot of his days and weeks and hours of work at the summer camp, firefighters camp for burn survivor kids. So he invested a lot of time, energy, and goodwill on that front. So unfortunately, I would like to add 2 additional names to that remembrance. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Jones, just to be sure, Mr. Granger was a captain?
Yes, fire captain.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right then. Any other questions or comments on the fire chief's report? Moving on to Sac Metro Fire firefighters local 522.
Good evening, President Kelly, directors. Happy New Year. I want to thank you for moving forward with the paramedic training program. I know the 3 individuals involved are highly motivated and they're looking forward to the opportunity. I also want to congratulate the new promotees and the retirees. I'll piggyback on Chief Harms' report on that and extend my condolences to the families of those that have been lost the last month. That concludes my report unless there's any questions.
Are there any questions of the report from Mr. McGoldrick? Seeing none, we will move on to committee and delegate reports. The executive committee, we met previously, and once again, I will report out that we executive committee met this evening and discussed the committee assignments. Moving on to Communications Center JPA. Deputy Chief Wagaman.
Good evening, President Kelly and directors, Chief Harms, Tyler Wagaman, Deputy Chief of Support Services. This is the first opportunity that I've been able to address you in my new capacity. I wanted to thank the fire chief, the executive staff, and the members for really assisting me in the transition over the last month. It has been a whirlwind, to say the least. One of my new responsibilities will be moving back as your representative on the Communications Center JPA board. We did meet on January 12th. During that board meeting, we did elect a new board chair. We re-elected the board chair, which is Deputy Chief Chris Costamani, City of Sacramento. I will be serving as the co-chair. Chief Chad Wilson will be representing Folsom Fire as primary, as well as Chief Troy Bear will be representing Consumnes Fire on the board. Again, those are all primary positions. Briefly spoken at the last board meeting, Assistant Chief Ty Bailey has transitioned into the Communications Center as their new executive director. I have been and will continue to work with Ty on that transition. Again, as you can imagine, very much a full plate and a big transition for him as well. But I truly look forward to see him succeed with a number of projects, as well as some new ideas that he's bringing to the table for that group over there. And I hope to continue to report out positivity from the dispatch center. With that, I want to talk about COVID for just a minute. The comm center, unfortunately, like many government agencies, was hit extremely hard with COVID, with over 50% of the dispatchers testing positive over a very short period of time. I have to commend the Teamsters Local 150 and 856 for really stepping up to the point that we actually had to change the work schedule from a 12-hour day to a 14-hour day, just to make sure that we could fulfill all the vacancies created by the folks that were at home trying to get better. That coupled with the agency stepping up, providing CAD coordinators, we were able to get through that big dip. And I'm happy to report there was zero loss in service for the county of Sacramento and all the constituents that we provide service to. But with that, there was a few small bumps in the road with respect to our ongoing projects. ProQA was delayed slightly, but we're going to ramp that back up, and we hope to go live in the first week of March. As well as our academy, we did have to push out a couple of months, and that is back on track for 6 new dispatchers starting in the first week of March. So that'll be Academy 21-1. Also, as we push between now and June, we will be working with 150 and 856, drafting a new MOU, because their contract will be up for renewal come July 1. So I look forward to working with that group through that process as well. And lastly, our next board meeting is scheduled for February 9th. We have moved to a single board meeting per month versus the 2 that were scheduled previously. And that concludes my report. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you for your report, Deputy Chief Wagaman. Any questions of Chief Wagaman's report? Seeing none, we do look forward to good news coming from the comm center. All right then, moving on to the California Fire and Rescue Training, JPA. They have a meeting scheduled for January 21st. This evening, Chief Harms was assigned the primary position, and I made a note someplace here. Help me out, Chief.
Chief Mitchell.
Chief Mitchell
Chief Mitchell will be
is the alternate. Yep.
the alternate. That's correct. Thank you. Any questions on that? Moving on to the Finance and Audit Committee, Director Orzali.
The Finance and Audit Committee has not met. Our next scheduled meeting is the 11th of February, and I'd like to say we look forward to that. That would be semi-true, but it will be the 11th of February. Thank you.
All right. And surprise, Director Orzali, you are still chair of that body.
And I want to take this opportunity to thank you.
You're welcome. Policy Committee, Director Gould.
It appears that the Policy Committee will be meeting just shy of Valentine's Day on the 11th. And we want to invite everyone to attend, as it will be full of excitement, I'm sure.
All right. And news to you maybe, but you are still chair of that committee.
You must not have got my memo.
Yes. Let's go to board member comments, questions and comments. To my right, Director Sailors.
Good evening, everyone. Happy New Year's. I would like to give a shout out to the CERT team and everyone that went and did the smoke detector blitz out here in my district after that fatal fire. I just want to thank everyone for doing that. That was a wonderful and particularly needed thing out here. They've had several fires. Thank you, everyone, for the presentations tonight. And that's it for tonight for me. Thank you.
Director Jones. Oh, wait. Yes, Director Jones.
Okay, thank you, Mr. President. According to chronological order on my notes, I'd like to thank Joe Pick as well as Mr. Warren for their comments at the opening of our session. Thank you very much. It is always appreciated, and our participation is really valued. Thank you. Terrific on the smoke detector push. Wow. I'm sorry it has to come out of a negative outcome, but there's probably 1,000 times more awareness now. So thank you to everyone doing that. I'm very proud that Metro's response with the involved with the COVID crisis, response to this COVID crisis, both the testing of folks in congregate living situations, as well as lining up to help out with the vaccine administration. And of course, to keep almost all of our companies open and responding to our constituents' needs. Terrific on the consolidating records. That's often not a very sexy thing, but my gosh, that's huge. That will so move us into much more streamlined resource and being able to use the information that we have. And finally, hooray for UASI and those thermal imaging devices. That's just good news on the ground. Thank you.
Indeed. All right. And Director Sailors, I apologize. I should not have begun with you. You are part of the executive committee, and I should have bypassed you. Anyhow, looking at this, Director Orzali. Oh, no.
Just briefly, I wanted to congratulate the department on the thermal imaging cameras. And that's a fantastic project. And I want to express my appreciation to Sue Frost for her support. She was the first person to step up and purchase 2 of those for the district. And I'm grateful to her for that. Next, I want to express my appreciation to Mr. Warren for his contribution. he is dedicated to the benefit of Metro Fire, and I appreciate his trying to support us. With that, I want to again thank Chief Harms and John Lava for their role in the endowment process. This was a significant step for us to have in place, and I look forward to expanding that significantly. With that, thank you.
Thank you, Director Orzali. Director Gould.
Ditto. Thank you.
Okay, Director Wood.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have just a couple of items. I'll echo what Directors Jones and Orzali said with regard to the recognitions and the thank yous. I have a couple of more personal things I just wanted to comment on. It was 4 weeks ago this morning, crew from 68 came to my house to address an emergency with my mother-in-law, and I did not get their names, but I do want to make sure that the word gets back to them that their professionalism, which everyone in our department is always professional, but their professionalism, their courtesy in a tough situation was extremely helpful. And so it was 12/17/2020, about 8 a.m., that crew at 68. I just want word to get back that I appreciate what they did. On a better side, the very next day, that same station, Captain Adam Spiva was in charge. He came out that evening with the engine and his crew and led our annual community truck parade. And they stayed in the truck. They did everything professional and proper. And but I really appreciate that. There was about 6 community trucks that were lit up, and our engine led them through the community with people standing out in their front yards, cheering them on and waving. And it was a good bit of normalcy, or what felt like normalcy, in what was an otherwise horrific year. So thank you to Captain Spiva. Thank you to Chris Vestal for helping put that together. Lastly, just wanted to say, in light of the pressure on the state's emergency medical services, things we've already heard about tonight, the words and actions of several local leaders this past weekend have been highly troubling to me. When we have a home burning, fire personnel rush in to rescue the people inside. When there's a motor vehicle collision, they'll go to extraordinary lengths on busy highways to remove trapped occupants. If somebody's calling in the middle of a medical emergency, our personnel are there giving everything in their skill set to make sure that patient makes it to the hospital for continued care. We'd never hear local leaders calling for residents to rip out smoke alarms. We would never hear local leaders calling for residents not to wear their seatbelts. Yet during a with a highly infectious virus, some of our leaders are calling, are acting themselves contrary to what we know can protect the safety of everyone in the community, and they're calling for others to do the same. Leaders who ignore public safety laws, toss aside medical and scientific recommendations, and encourage others to do the same put every member of our community in harm's way, and they seriously risk the health and safety of the members of Metro Fire and the families that those members go home to every 48 hours. And those local leaders are acting on their own agendas. They're not acting as friends or supporters of this region's first responders. Our men and women and their families are too precious a resource to risk for political grandstanding, and they deserve better. And it just fries me to no end what I saw this weekend from some of our leaders. So, Mr. Chair, I do appreciate the time.
Thank you, Mr. Wood. Director White.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, first I want to thank Director Woods for his comments, and I feel the same way. I got an opportunity to talk to Battalion Chief Chris Reed recently, and he gave me permission to express his very genuine and sincere appreciation and gratitude for all the support that he has received during his recovery from the district, from the chief to Local 522 to the members of the district. And it was nice to have a conversation with him and hear from him directly just how much he appreciated the support that was provided. So he gave me permission to relay that message. So that's my report. Thank you. Oh,
thank you, Director White.
One last thing, I also
certainly.
Well, I do appreciate Director Jones, making sure that we did not Miss Fire Chief Ray Charles or Fire Captain Carl Granger with our moment of silence tonight. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, Director White. Director Clark.
Mr. Chairman, first of all, I want to wish everyone a happy new year. Looking forward to, I'm really optimistic about 2021. I mean, things have been tough in 2020, but I am very optimistic. One thing I'm really happy about is the aggressiveness in which our district is vaccinating our members. It's very important. We deal directly with the public, and I also appreciate Director Wood's comments on our public leaders that show a bad example. Let's see. One of my other concerns about, we've had a few of our members infected and go through a lot of symptoms and whatnot of COVID-19. I'm a little concerned about us paying attention to long haulers. There are issues with that among survivors, if you will, of COVID-19. That's something I would like us to pay attention to. And last of all, I'd like to condolences also to the those that have fallen, our fallen soldiers. And finally, I'd like to thank the men and women of Metro Fire for a difficult job under difficult circumstances in this environment that we have right now. And I'm just looking forward to us doing great things in 2021. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Director Clark. I've not missed anyone, have I? Okay.
Director Kelly, you did miss me.
Oh, Director Sheets, I apologize.
It's okay. I don't have much to say, but I did want to thank everybody for their presentations tonight. And I did want to reiterate how important I think the paramedic program is. I do want to echo Director Clark's sentiments for our vaccination program for our members. I think it's extremely important for our members to not only protect themselves, but to protect the public. And also, unfortunately, to send my condolences not only to our members, those who have unfortunately passed away shortly, but also to recognize those members that have, or not members, but people who have died in the riots lately. In our Sacramento region, we are also facing some riots, and it is affecting our hospital. And I pray and I hope that things are going to be peaceful on next week on January 20th. Yep. It's a scary time right now, and I truly pray, and I hope that next week is going to be peaceful, especially for the hospital, for our members who are going to be out there protecting the public, but also our hospitals who are going to be serving the public as well. And that's all I have. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Director Sheets, and I do apologize for overlooking you.
No problem.
At this time, I have no real comments to make other than thank you for allowing me to be chair of this organization once more time. For a moment of silence this evening, I've got the names for, we had a community emergency response team member named Don Olson. I've learned about Mr. Olson, and he was not your average member. We've got Forrest Adams, who was with City Fire. We've got former Chief Ray Charles. I knew Mr. Charles. And we've got a Captain Carl Granger from Sacramento City Fire. Stand a moment of silence for the dearly departed, and then we will adjourn the meeting. All right. Thank you. Board Clerk Pania, are there any special instructions for our closed session, or will some members just drop off? Some people just drop off.
So we will move into closed session now, and those instructions were emailed to
Oh, that's
those
right. That's right.
attendants.
Okay.
We will come back into our regular session for a report out from John Lawbred.
From closed session, correct. See you in closed session. And at this time, Mr. Lawbred, would you please report out?
Yes, thank you, Director Kelly. The board met in closed session first with respect to the workers' compensation claim involving Mr. Barry Taylor. The board voted to give authority to its third-party administrator to effectuate settlement of that workers' compensation claim. Second, the board met in closed session with respect to the Government Code Section 910 claim for damages filed by Mr. Nabil Samam against Metro Fire. The board voted to give authority to the clerk to reject that claim. Thank you.
Thank you for your help, Mr. Lawbred. Seeing no further business before this board, I would like to take a minute and thank Director Sheets once again for the fine leadership you provided to this organization over the last year.
I appreciate that. Thank you, sir.
You're absolutely welcome. Anybody else? Nothing? All right, then we are adjourned. Thank you.
Have a good
Good
night,
night, everyone.
Good night, everybody.
Have a
Be
good
safe.
couple weeks.
Take care.